first of all, we were discussing earlier, congratulations. What we did on the petitioning to get my name on the ballot was really unique. It looks like Robert Kennedy Jr. will end up on the ballot after paying $3 million, $4 million. Many of the people in this room who petitioned for me could have made a down payment on a house if we were petitioning for Kennedy at $90 an hour for the work that we did. So what this campaign did was totally unique in the state and in the history of the state, and I am the only person who has done this twice. So for all those people, in 2022, like Larry Sharp in the Libertarian Party for his own opportunistic reasons, and Howie Hawkins in the Green Party for his own FBI or whatever related reasons, who said, we don't know if Diane really did it because no one looked at her petitions. Forget it. We did it. So, why am I running for U.S. Senate? And I will tell you, I actually think I should be running for president.
Why not?
I should. But we concluded that at this moment, whoops, let me not trip the weight. We saw what it's like to get on the ballot in New York as an independent. I don't intend to sell my soul to a party. So getting on 50 states or some credible amount, the campaign was not in a position to do this time. And we are suffering greatly for lack of a qualified presidential candidate. We have a man suffering from senile dementia, which was obvious at the debate, who just gave rambling comments at the end of a NATO summit where the people running Joe Biden are now saying we are going to, whatever red lines of Russia we have not crossed, we are now going to cross. So we are going to put planes, F-16s now in Ukraine, which can be armed with nuclear warheads. Now, if you were Russia and you knew there was a plane that could carry a nuclear warhead, what are you going to do? Call up the pilot? Hi, can you tell me, do you have a nuclear bomb on this plane? No. Russia will be required to shoot these down. What do you think the U.S. would do? President Biden, or whoever dictates to him what to do, has said that it's perfectly legitimate for Ukraine to use American weapons to strike targets inside territory that is undeniably Russian. We are now killing civilians on beaches in Crimea. We are now striking radar facilities, and unlike the United States, Russia has in writing a no first use policy. Russia has in writing that they will not use nuclear weapons preemptively, and the conditions under which they would use nuclear weapons are that they are facing an existential threat to their existence, or that the ability to launch a second strike, their ability for deterrence is destroyed. So, what does the radar early warning system mean? And what does it mean when the United States says that we want to launch a disabling strike? That we want to launch a strike which prevents Russia from launching a return strike, because they say their nuclear weapons are for deterrence. But if we knock out their ability to launch a second strike, we have knocked out the purpose of their nuclear weapons, and under their written documents, Destroying their ability for deterrence is also reason to use a nuclear weapon. Now, Putin doesn't want to do that because they have virtually won the war in Ukraine, and therefore he has no desire to expand the war. They want to end the thing. He made a proposal on June 14th for a peace plan, which if we had any sane leadership in the West, would be taken as a starting point for negotiations. But instead, the West said out of hand, no, we're not taking it seriously. And then they went ahead and held this ridiculous NATO conference. And you realize NATO could disintegrate. Turkey, which apparently has the largest standing army in Europe, now wants to join the BRICS. Now, I hate to say it, but being a member of the BRICS and being a member of NATO is not compatible. That's not very good for NATO. Then you have the Prime Minister of Hungary, Viktor Orban. Hungary is now the head of the European Commission. So he seized the moment and met with Zelensky, and I think it's interesting that Zelensky met with him. And people may have seen the short video clip where even the drug addict guy who plays the piano with certain parts of his anatomy that I can't say in front of children, even that guy is getting a little unnerved by the number of Ukrainians who have died. So he said, we have to talk, we don't have long. So Zelensky met with Orban. Then Orban met with Putin. Then Orban met with Xi Jinping. And guess what, in the US, did he meet with Joe Biden? No, what's the point? Maybe you meet with Joe Biden if you want to deliver a box of defense. Otherwise, why do you meet with Biden? You don't meet with Biden. He met with Trump because everyone is expecting at the moment that Donald Trump will be the next president. And, you know, there's going to be massive election fraud, as there has been in many elections in the U.S. So I don't know. I'm not going to project who will win. I will say Biden is obviously not qualified. Kamala Harris is a pothead laughingstock. And the media is putting out polls saying that it would be close. It's not close. They're just putting out the polls to prepare to steal the election. But that being said, you get back to my point. While Trump would probably get us off the trajectory of a nuclear war with Russia, his policy in the Middle East, his demeanor is not presidential. Kennedy, he's very clear about Russia, Ukraine. He's horrific on Gaza, where the British journal, The Lancet, is now saying that there are 186,000 dead Palestinians. And that is based on not just people, the count that they've gotten from the hospitals, but people who have starved, people are buried under rubble, people who are missing. So probably the number of dead in Palestine, Gaza, is 186,000. And the world is horrified. And this is the other thing. Which of these presidential candidates has any sense of how the United States is seen by the world? Will anybody ever trust us again? Will we ever be able to sign a treaty? Who would care to make a treaty with the United States? How do we restore the trust in our nation? So the point of this campaign in New York, and Jose Vega running for Congress, is that we are running national and international campaigns to try and bring into the battle what is right now the most important branch of American government, which is the American people. Because the American people, under our Constitution, have an enormous amount of power. And the American people have chosen not to use the power that they have. And this began at the end of the Vietnam War. Think about what happened. There was an anti-war movement. There was a civil rights movement under Martin Luther King, a patriotic American Christian preacher. What happened? They assassinated him. Then what happened? The FBI took over in the form of the Black nationalist movement. And what happened to the anti-Vietnam movement? Drugs, free sex, rock and roll. So a movement which could have functioned for the good to get the United States back to our founding principles was rendered impotent by the counterculture. And what we have to do now, because we're in obviously we're in a transition. We're in a complete transition. Everything is up for grabs. And the question is, can we restore the identity of the United States? Can we act as our nation was intended, as our founding fathers realized, which is that we were a bulwark against colonialism on the whole planet? That the idea of the American Revolution was that every single nation on the planet had a right to self-government. And as John Quincy Adams said, it was not that we were going to run around dictating to these nations how they should run their government, what language they should speak, what religion, how often they should hold elections, how many people. That wasn't the idea. The founding of the United States was to assert a true principle that human beings, by nature of our creation in the image of the Creator, by nature of the fact that we have a spark that allows us to discover new things, to discover new principles, to increase what LaRouche called the potential population density, that human beings discovered how to use fire. And what did that allow us to do? Cook our food.
Barbecue.
Barbecue, right. And what does that mean? It means if you cook your food, you don't die from the cooties that are in the food. You don't get foodborne diseases. You can keep it longer. And we also discovered heat-powered machines. We discovered steam engines. So what we discovered is how mankind can have more power over nature, that we can use our resources more and more efficiently, which means that what we used to consider the American dream, which is the future generations, would have a higher standard of living than we do and be more numerous. There would be more people who lived longer, who were better educated, who were healthier, and that was the natural course of development of humanity. And what came in the 60s? What came in this rock, drug, sex counterculture? Oh no, you are no better than a mosquito. In fact, you're worse than a mosquito, because at least the mosquitoes don't kill other mosquitoes, which is not true. But at least they don't do that. You're worse than that. You want to build a bridge? Forget it. You're going to upset the habitat of the man-eating leech, right? So you can't build a bridge. You can't do this. And we've gone backwards. And what happens is if you disrupt what is the natural development of mankind to become more numerous, to consume more energy per capita, which is a good thing, you don't just get a gradual tapering off, you get a hyperbolic collapse. If you reduce the so-called carrying capacity, if you reduce the potential population density, imagine New York City without electricity. How long would it take for people to die in huge numbers? What are the implications of shutting down Indian Point and saying we're going to replace that by covering Long Island with solar panels? You're talking about increasing the death rate. We have people here from Texas, they saw it already. When you get a deep freeze and your power lines freeze and your windmills don't turn, people die.
Or a tornado or a hurricane.
Right, and that's where we're going. And we terrorize children by saying, man-made climate change. Stop exhaling. Your mother is destroying the planet because she talks too much. Right? So we're at a point where 2/3 of the world's population has rejected that model. And they're saying, you know what, we want electricity, we want to grow food. The people of Haiti don't want to burn charcoal and cow dung forever. They'd like a modern coal-fired power plant if they can't get a nuclear power plant right away. So the British Empire has lost control of the planet. And what you have is an elite group of billionaires between the City of London and Wall Street and the intelligence agencies and the military agencies which they control, trying to cling on. Now, I wanted Fox and Alex to say a little bit because some people were with us earlier. We visited the home of Frederic Church, and we did visit the home of Thomas Cole. But when you look at what's called the Hudson School of American Painting, it is not a school of American painting. It's a conspiracy. These people were patriots. They were tied to the people in Europe like Humboldt, who had developed the whole education system there. And they had a beautiful idea, as Friedrich Schiller did, about the relationship between man and nature and human society. And that you could do things that were powerful, which were also beautiful. And as people know, Schiller said, Friedrich Schiller was horrifically disappointed by the French Revolution. And if you read Schiller's paper on universal history, it's amazing because it was before the French Revolution but after the American Revolution. And he says in that paper, the world has changed. Finally, man is going to be recognized as himself. We're going to have governments that respect the principle of the general welfare. Mankind has been liberated. It was totally optimistic. And then the French Revolution, which everyone thought we're going to get the American Revolution repeated, but it didn't happen. The British and various bankers, Jacques Niquet, the Swiss banker deployed by the British, undermined it. And what happened in France? A bloodbath. Everyone got their head chopped off. All the best intellectuals were guillotined. And it was horrifically disappointing. And Schiller said, how could it be? Mankind is in this revolutionary moment. We just had the American Revolution. Why couldn't they repeat it in France? And he said, a great moment, a moment of opportunity has found a people that is too small. That people were able to be, how did Nikkei, oh, the king and queen are spending too much money. Think about what the populists say about the migrants. Well, they're getting all this free stuff. Well, you know what? Organizing a movement based on selfishness or greed is not going to work. And so it's a big question which way the United States will go, because if we say, wow, like a 3-year-old, he has something I don't have. He got a free cell phone and he gets to sleep in a hotel room with 15 other people. You see, they're just manipulating. Does that mean it's good that New York City has been flooded with 200,000 migrants? No, but who is doing that and why? And do you want to stop it? And what does it expose? So LaRouche said years ago that the only way that the American people can be rallied for our nation to do anything good in the world is that we have to revive the principles of the American Revolution. And we have to rediscover this. And that's why what we have here, what Fox and Alex did, this treasure of the connection, in a sense, the wellspring between the beautiful ideas that our nation was based on and the fight for them is so critical, and it's here. And I'll just say one last thing. There was a terrible turning point, which was World War I. And we had a lot done to derail the United States, right? First you had the British supporting the Confederacy and supporting the slaveholders. Then you had the British assassinating Abraham Lincoln, and they assassinated Garfield, and they assassinated McKinley. McKinley was assassinated in Buffalo, speaking at a Pan-American exposition. Why? Because these Americans knew that the mission was to create a whole hemisphere that was a bulwark against slavery and the opium trade. And that had to be destroyed, and our mission had to be destroyed. People have no understanding of the Monroe Doctrine. Everyone likes to attack the Monroe Doctrine. The Monroe Doctrine was not a doctrine to spread colonialism. The Monroe Doctrine was to say we are going to protect nations from having the British come in and turn them into slave colonies and opium plantations. So people don't even understand that. What do they teach children in school today? We ran into it in the Bronx, right? Oh, well, the United States is just a bunch of these rich, white, old men who wanted to have slaves, which I guess they couldn't have somewhere else. So they came here to create another slave plantation. That is not what the American Revolution was about. It was not about taxation without representation. It was about what Joan of Arc imagined, Nicholas of Cusa, the need that mankind had to grow into a form of government that was worthy of what it meant to be human. And so that's what this campaign is about. In the state of New York, we couldn't have a better place from which to do it because the history is here. And now that I'm on the ballot, we have to break out the blackout, break out the censorship, and become visible. And we'll bring in literature we have now, yard signs, we'll have more banners. I'm going to be asking people around the state to take 3 days a week for 90 minutes, 3 times a week, and go to your nearest highway overpass and hold up the banner or the side of the road. We're going to have all kinds of guerrilla deployments where we surface to be visible, literature, and whatever. We'll do what we can on social media, but it is very controlled. Very controlled. I am being massively shadow banned. It doesn't matter, really. Because what we did with the petitioning, no one else, even with millions of dollars, was able to do. So it tells you something about hand-to-hand organizing, one-on-one. So I will get out the literature. That's what I wanted to say, and I did want to invite Alex and Fox, if you have anything, any thoughts on what you presented in relation to this incredible crisis that we're in and what we have to do.
Sure, yeah.
Nice speech. Lincoln man.
Well, it's an honor to be here with all of you and hear these incredibly inspiring words by Diane. I mean, I thought our country was lost. I believed some of the stuff. I was taught as a child to think we're the best. USA is #1, and then I learned, oh no, that's all chauvinistic crap. We're actually punishing the rest of the world. And then you get to that stage and you say, well, all these people just want to destroy America. They say, well, the answer is to destroy America, death to America, KKK, right? I said, well, that's not the answer either. because there is a true patriotism here, and there is real ideas. And our country, what our country was founded on, is so powerful, and that's why they keep us down. And once you figure that out, you say, oh, that's what they're trying to do. And you come to the Hudson Valley and you learn the history of our country, and you learn why all these influential people like George Soros is running Bard College, an international organization to rock the minds of young, creative, interesting people. I mean, this is why Peter Bucket is here, trying to turn everyone into degrowth peasants who want to reduce the population and worship Mother Gaia. This is why influential people come to this area, because they know it's so important. Discovering the truth about Thomas Full changed my life, because I thought he was an environmentalist. I thought he was another one of these Gaia-worshipping environmentalists, but the truth is no. He actually cared about us. He wanted us to turn this country into an amazing thing. And he said, no, we don't have to sacrifice nature. We don't have to sacrifice development. We can have it all. Because that's the true nature of like how human beings develop, right? Is that we can actually make things more beautiful for everyone. We can increase, as LaRouche proved, right? We can increase our population density. We can do amazing things, and the proof is in the pudding, right? I mean, we went from burning wood to burning coal to fossil fuels to nuclear energy. Nuclear energy is a blessing. We discovered this amazing thing, and we're just throwing it away, and we're saying, oh, we don't have to develop nuclear energy. We can just degrow and have solar panels. Even though it's the answer to everyone's problem, it makes energy cheaper, it helps the environment, it's the golden solution, and everyone says, no, we can't do it, it's too expensive, there's too many excuses why we can't do it. But the rest of the world is doing it. Russia and China are doing it. And they're trying to brainwash Americans into thinking that Russia and China are our enemies, but they're not. And the minute Americans figure out that Russia and China are not our enemies, they're actually more like us, they're screwed. The people that keep us down, they're done for. And that's the whole thing, is figuring out how do we get Americans to figure out that Russia and China are not our enemies. Actually, we have the same enemy as them that's keeping us down, that's stopping us from developing, that's keeping us brainwashed and reducing our standards of living and our expectations for life, and making us nihilistic, drug-addled, and depressed as a nation. So, I mean, it's exciting to have everyone here in this campaign, and I'm really happy to share the Hudson Valley with everyone. I know there's some local people here too. How many people actually live in this area over here? Just you guys. Are there people from New York here too, or you guys are like from all over the place? New York. But I mean, that's become kind of my mission now, is to get people to realize that, like, no, the Hudson Valley School is actually really important, because these are the ideals of our country. And if we can actually go back to a true patriotism, not a chauvinistic, we're number one, but also not a burn it down because America is an evil empire, because we're not an evil empire. We're being used as a bulldog for an evil empire that we actually fought, and that's what started our country. So if we can actually put two and two together and figure that out and get back to that, I mean, we're golden, right? But the answer is easy, but the path before us is hard. They're gonna fight us every step of the way. So I'm honored to be with you guys all and fighting that good fight.
I have barely anything to add to that, but I just wanted to say about our presentation today at Alana, and we're going to be doing more stuff around the Hudson River School, about the legacy of Thomas Cole, Frederic Church, and other, in Kingston we have, what's his name?
Peter Bucket.
Jervis McEntee. He's a student of church. And I think something that came to mind when Diane was speaking was about how did we get to this point? And it really, part of the American dream died when Darwinism took hold and killed the Hudson River School. And Darwinism also descended from Alexander von Humboldt. Darwin followed in Humboldt's footsteps the same way that Church followed in Humboldt's footsteps. They both traveled to South America, Darwin and Church. And Church went there and built on Alexander von Humboldt's legacy about learning about the natural world and how studying the natural world with landscape painting increases your ability to take in the sublime, to appreciate the design that God has made, a loving God has made. And Darwin, conversely, went to South America and destroyed Alexander von Humboldt's legacy and said that actually life is all about all versus all. Everyone's in a scrap for survival, and that same thing. You can see where in 1859, after the Civil War and then the spread of Darwinism, how that has led Americans to believe that people around the world are our enemy. Now we're in this zero-sum game against Russia and China. And Darwinism has also infected our ability to appreciate nature. When we look at nature, we just see a fight over resources and something, we talk about nuclear power plants. And what happened was, even the legacy of Alana, which is Frederic Church's great estate on the Hudson River, Alana was used to block nuclear power development on the Hudson River. We got a power bill last year, or 2 years ago, for like $1,000 one month, because the war in Russia and Ukraine led natural gas prices to go up so high, and we didn't have any alternative source of energy, so our electric bill was $1,000, and many people are still struggling with that. And if we had had a nuclear power plant built there in the 1970s, our bill would have been a lot lower. The reason why it wasn't built was because the legacy of Alana was twisted by things like Darwinism and by things like modern environmentalism, where it was believed that there was a zero-sum game between nature and humanity, or there has to be one winner or another. So a nuclear power plant was proposed in the 1970s near Alana, and it was blocked solely on the basis of the aesthetic enjoyment of people at Alana, where they would look across the river and they'd see an ugly nuclear power plant. And the thing is, discovering the Hudson River School, discovering Church's love of science, and his love of nature and art, it's clear that if he was alive when the nuclear power plant was proposed, he wouldn't have opposed it on aesthetic grounds. In fact, he would have been helping them design it. He would have designed a beautiful nuclear power plant that would have inspired people and would have, accomplished all the goals of, preserving nature, making things look beautiful, and also providing us with electricity so that we can all have the ability to make discoveries. And we can all, build on his legacy, just like he built on von Humboldt's legacy. So we're going to be doing a lot more at the Hudson River School in this area. I'm convinced that it's our birthright and that it's actually very important. It's a very clear sign about how many environmental organizations, how many leftists are kind of flocking to things like Alana and the Hudson River School, changing the meaning of it, rewriting history. And even though it's not directly about going out and talking to voters and things like that, it's still important to look at and to understand, because we can draw inspiration from it, and we can actually do a lot of really good things teaching people at the Hudson River School, because it's all there, and it's a beautiful thing to look at. So thank you, Diane, and it's been really inspiring to get to know you, and hope to see everyone on the campaign trail to help Diane win. Take back the
And just tell, because everyone wasn't on the tour, please tell the story of the Niagara Falls. That is so exciting.
Oh, yeah.
Just learned that today.
So Cole was, or not Cole, Church. He struck up a friendship with Calvert Bohm, the famous architect, and also Frederic Olmsted, who were the designers of Central Park. That's the most famous thing. They also did a lot of stuff up here, but so Church got to know them. They all worked together to build Alana, to do this amazing landscape architecture. And then after that, Church joined the Central Park Commission and developed a deeper relationship with Olmsted. And they started talking about Niagara Falls because in the 1870s, Niagara Falls had been so heavily dammed. There were so many factories, and they were all using it for hydropower. They were using the great power of the falls to generate electricity and energy for factories to help build Buffalo, the powerhouse that it was. But Niagara Falls was it looked like a trickle. It was not the magnificent thing that people like Cole and Church had seen earlier in the 1800s. So Church worked with Olmsted to actually make Niagara beautiful again. And they did landscape design and all kinds of engineering to make Niagara Falls look amazing again, while still preserving the ability to get energy from it. So today, Niagara Falls is an amazing landmark and inspiring place to go, and it's also New York State's largest power plant. We get over 2.5 gigawatts a year from Niagara Falls. It's our largest source of energy in the state, and it's beautiful. So that's something to remember, is that we can balance development and energy with aesthetics and with nature. We can do it all if we have the right philosophy, the right belief that we can do it all, and not just fighting against each other. So, yep.
Cool.